Broadcasting live from an undisclosed location in the universe. Welcome to Iggy Garcia Live, the show where metaphysics, holistic living, motivation, and inspiration come together to empower your mind, body, and soul. We will dive deep into the realms of metaphysical wisdom, exploring the fascinating connections between mind and matter. Get ready to ignite your inner spark and embrace a journey of self-discovery. So, sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride.
Lighting a candle here. Inviting the ancestors into the space. Wonder what I'm doing. I'll prop the candle here in a minute. There we go. Candle propped. All right, I hope you guys can hear me. Welcome to Iggy Garcia Live. We're gonna burn a little sage here. Ceremonial sage. Smells great. We're going to call on to our ancestors to guide us today in this journey and this messages that we want to share and the topics that we want to talk about. So this candle will burn throughout the show. Put it over here on the left of me. So it'll burn continuously. Plus it's also a timer. Those candles are there's a little timer to reminder where I'm at. So how's everybody doing? Iggy here. And it's October. I can't believe it's October. Wow. This year's just been flying by. I don't know where the time has gone. I don't know it's just been an exciting year. It's been there's been some challenges. There have been some things that have been going on in the world that cause us to check our sanity, check our feelings, our emotions, and how we feel about things. And so today my topic is just kind of like this is episode 202, so there's a lot of things we can talk about, and sometimes too much to talk about. We can talk about current events, we can talk about things, but that's not really where I want to get into too much right off the bat. Where I really want to get into is talking about who and how we are and what it means to just be in the hot hot second, how easy life can change for us. Life can change for us in an instant. And for those of you who have not experienced that, I commend you that, that's great. That's awesome. But for those of you who have had incidents where your life has changed drastically, the pain, the feeling, the joy, the happiness, because it goes all across the board. Life changing doesn't mean that you have to just be one thing to happen to you. It doesn't have to be positive or negative. It's just a change. Because a change that significantly alters, the way your life is going, the way your path is moving. And sometimes when we're in a rhythm, where we're doing good, we're doing pretty good, and all of a sudden, bah, something happens. Something negative happens, and boom, there we are. It totally crumbles us. And for some people, it's hard for them to come out of that feeling and out of that emotion and be able to say, hey, my God, this is horrible. This is horrendous. This is what happened to me. It's what happened. The situation is what happened, right? And so, and you're affected by it because you're in that situation with it. But then there's also positive things that happen to us. Boom, we have a great opportunity. We got a promotion. We got a new significant other, we got rid of people in our lives that don't serve us anymore because, They're so oblivious and so blind to even know what they did wrong. But that happens a lot. It happens a lot to people. A lot of people, get into friendships and relationships and they don't create healthy limits and boundaries with one another. And that's one of the biggest issues that happens with people. When you meet new friends, you meet new people, you get into these situations where, everything's going great right along, and all of a sudden, one, disagreement, one feeling, one emotion that doesn't align with one another, it's ended. It ends the relationships, friendships. But you know what? That could be a good thing. That could be a good thing. If something so small and something so minute or something that is so out of character for somebody happens, then that's good. So, there are instances where, where men and women cross boundary lines and they don't realize they're crossing boundary lines. And, unfortunately, especially when you have someone else in your life and then those boundaries are being crossed and you repeatedly have said something without being offensive or rude to them, and then they don't listen. I mean, everything's cool, but then as soon as pictures are taken, there's there's photos or whatever, all of a sudden these people just kind of like hang all over you, and in a sense a wrong message to the world about what's really truly happening. And this is one of those things that I'm talking about in the what happens in the world to a lot of people. A lot of folks run into a situation where people don't respect boundaries. And this is what changes friendships and relationships sometimes, because people do not understand that when some people are just polite and they're going to say, "Hey, you know what? That offends me or that makes me upset." I'm one of those people, like, if you don't listen, if you're not listening to me and you're not like paying attention to the signs, or I'm saying, "Hey, I don't like that." It's pretty abrupt how I go through that motion. I'm like, this person doesn't respect, this person doesn't listen. Just got to cut them off. But we're so afraid to cut people off because, then we're the bad guy. And then, we're this or that. I'd rather be the bad guy and represent myself. Hey, you know what? This person just didn't respect my space and my boundaries. But that happens a lot. It happens to a lot of us. A lot of us get like that because we don't have healthy limits managed for ourselves with other people. The illusion is that sometimes we think that we are creating these healthy boundaries and we're not creating healthy boundaries. We think that we are. We assume that people have to already know that these boundaries are in effect. No, it doesn't work that way, my friends. People don't know. People have an idea, and then as soon as you build rapport with somebody, they just think those things kind of fall a little bit. And you know what? You need to always check with the people that you care, your significant other, partners, relationships, friendships. You need to check in with these people. You need to know, what you like and don't like. You don't just, oh, I like that person just because, but they bring me joy, but I don't like this about them. Those things we have to address sometimes. What's more important? Are we going to address the big elephant in the room and say, hey, this person's not respecting boundaries, but they're still pretty cool, and we do that a lot. We do that a lot, and we do that, and we do that, and we do that, and we do that a lot. I've done that. I'm trying not to do that anymore because you know what? It doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help yourself because, there's always two sides of the stories. And depending who is listening, you create these big friendships with people and then all of a sudden, boom, everything falls apart. But it's supposed to fall apart. It's supposed to fall apart. Because if it doesn't fall apart, there's nothing to rebuild. And if you're building onto something that has a weak foundation to begin with, then that's where the issues lay. If you have a weak foundation to start with, then what are you really building on? So the world right now is in a hot mess all over. And we're trying to decide which way and what directions we want to turn, how we want to feel, what we feel, how we're feeling, what camps we need to reside in, what camps we shouldn't reside in. Should we be neutral? Should we be, in this space or that space? And that's what's happening right now. And I'm not saying this doesn't happen any other time since man's been walking this planet in woman, but what I'm saying is this. Now we're coming to a place in history where people are really pigeonholing people to pick sides. Bandwagoning is one thing, but to actually have to pick a side for something that maybe is not absolute to your belief system, there should be questions about that. There should be questions about that, and we don't question enough. We can't say, well, because of this, because of that. But there's good, you know, no matter what side you're on, you're going to agree with the side that is more resonates more with you. That energy that resonates with you. That little piece of energy that that you connect with. And we all do it. We all resonate with certain things. In sports, we pick the team we like because we're either from the town we're from, or we like the colors or the feelings and emotions. But then they're easy to shut off and cut off the other team just as easy. I watch it on all sides of the gamut of how it works. In politics, the same way. Politics is probably worse right now. Politics is worse because we're coming into a place where there's been massive change in things that have been uh, going along for many, 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 many years in this country. For many years, things were just steadfast going in one direction. That's how it was, and there was no question. And then all of a sudden, things have been warped and changed, and then all of a sudden, everybody just lost their shit. I mean, on both sides of the aisle, three sides of the aisle, whatever aisles you're on, everybody's upset, everybody's hurt, everybody's feeling the pains. What people don't realize is, and I'm going to use this as an example, the people who are in power are there because we put them there. And when we put them there, the responsibility falls on us to either move them out, create new leadership, but yet we don't do that. We don't do that. We don't. Why? Because the standards of politics have changed. The standards of living have changed. Everything has changed. The game has changed. The game has evolved into something that I don't even recognize. I don't recognize what I'm looking at. Is that good? Is that bad? I don't know. It's hard to tell. It depends who you ask. You ask somebody, what do you think about the state of the union, state of the world, state of our country, whatever. You'll get, if you have 30 people, you get 30 different ideologies and beliefs. Will there be some similarities in some of them? Maybe. But what I'm finding right now is that the change is affecting people in ways that it's just kind of crazy. It's kind of weird. It's like, I've never seen people so combative and so angry on, both sides of the aisle. It's just crazy. And you can't even post or say or do or anything, because then it makes you look like you're one way or the other. Are people counting how many posts that you're putting up? Or people saying you're not putting enough posts here? Or, I try to be neutral as much as possible. I try to see both sides of it. But some of the things are just funny. And, sometimes I post things and it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm that way or that way. It's really comical. If we can't laugh at ourselves, and we can't joke, and we can't be like, oh my God, that's hilarious, then something's wrong. Something's wrong when we can't laugh at ourselves anymore like we used to. It's pretty healthy to laugh and say, hey, you know what? Maybe I need to see things differently. Instead of saying, no, you're done, we're out, we don't like you, get out. But that happens. I've done that. I'm like, I don't like this when you're out. Because that's the way we're being conditioned now. That everything has to be absolute. Never talk to that person ever again. Never communicate with them ever again. No. And it's sad. Very, very truly sad that you cannot, talk about your differences or have differences and still be friends. And, regardless of what happens, people just, it's just a different world. I'm 57 and I grew up a much different time than a lot of the younger people. I mean, there really is no difference. We had bums when I was growing up. We have bums now. We have people who are very successful now, and we have very successful people who were when I was growing up. We have millionaires, billionaires on the millennial sides, and we also have them in the Gen Z, Gen X, baby boomers, the silent, group. They all have their representations. It's where you connect and where you put your energy is what happens. But so many of us are so triggered by, the things that we see that we think that we have to align ourselves. And, I mean, that's fine if you want to align yourself, but, there's also got to look at it and say, okay, if I align myself this way, Do I truly believe everything that they're saying? I mean, you pretty much would have to, right? If you think that's the only way it should be. But there's no middle ground. There's no middle ground in American politics. There's no middle ground. Absolutely not. You think there is, there's not. There's no middle ground in religion and church. There's not. There's no middle ground in sports. There's not. You know, you either like your team or you don't like your team, or you can kind of like another team, but you can't really like the team. I mean, it's just like anything. You know, you go to the store, you buy organic, you don't buy organic, or you buy certified organic, you know, or you know, it's just, it's kind of where we're at now. You know, our country allows so much crap that comes in here, and, you know, producers and companies make stuff and sell it to us. I was reading articles here on, you know, online about how food sources in the other countries, especially Europe, won't allow certain toxins in our food, certain things to happen. But all of a sudden, here in America, we don't say anything. I don't know if we complain about the wrong things or the right things, but sometimes we just don't participate in a way that it should be healthy. And I'm finding right now that the next generation, you know, we're going to have to do a lot of cleanup for the past generations in the decisions that they made. But that's supposed to be that way because we cleaned up stuff from the olds. They cleaned stuff up from us, you know, because that's what you do. That's what you do. You're supposed to do that. Did we leave you a mess? Hey, man, probably yes and probably not. We probably give you stuff that you probably weren't even expecting. There's probably, like there's a buried treasure under there if you look hard enough. But you know, the world is the world, okay? And I've told this to everybody, you know, when Mother Earth explodes and she's done with everything she could possibly give, we're all going with her. There's nobody on this planet who's going to survive that cataclysm when it happens. So, you know, count your blessings, count the feelings and the emotions that you have and with the people that you care about and you love. Because, you know, right now, the people who are around you, the ones who stick with you and the ones who are like, hey, you know what? They care about you. I'm not saying the ones that walked away or are not with you don't care about you. They're just not in alignment with you in the moment. And when they're not in alignment with you, that's okay. You're not in alignment with somebody. But, you know, so many of us hang on to relationships and friendships that don't serve us. And why do you do that? Why do you hang on to something that it doesn't serve you? Why? Because in the present moment, you probably don't have anything else going on for you. You probably don't have anything happening. You probably don't have anything that you are connected to. So we connect on to the things that we think are good. I mean, count on your hands how many people you can call right now that would show up and pick you up if they had to. Is it 5? Is it 1? Is it 2? Is it none? Well, for some, it'll be none. And for others, you know, it could be 10 fingers. You know, we create the world that we want to create, you know. In a hot second, you know, we create what we need and what we feel we have to. There's no excuses why you or I can't be successful in the way we want to be successful. So many of us have these grandeurs and these illusions of what we truly want, but we won't do it. We won't do it because we feel like we have to sacrifice and we think we have to give because you do. You do have to work at it. It's not just handed to you. You know, even the people who have a lot of money understand that the people who are coming next in their line may lose it all. And that's why they create safeguards. That's why they create safeguards for themselves. They plan. They forge ahead. And we're angry at these people. We're angry at all these multi-rich people because why? Because we don't feel like they're paying their fair share. But you remember what I just said earlier? The reason that they don't pay their fair share is because they negotiate and they bust their ass to make sure that they don't pay. Did you hear what I just said? The ultra rich, they say, hey, we're going to bring jobs and industry to your locale. We don't want to pay taxes. We want to be exempt for 10 years, 100 years, whatever. And the city's going, okay. The state's going, I would rather have them here for 100 years creating jobs, creating industry versus, falling into the pit trap of saying, well, you have to pay 5%, 2%. If not, you know what they say? Well, I'm going to go to Kansas. I'm not going to stay in Ohio. So that's okay. Because Kansas is willing to give me all this room, all this land to create whatever I need to create. And they're not going to charge me taxes. It's because that's why they're called powerful. That's why they're the rich. Because they control the game. They're in charge. They create the hot second. They create the hot moment. They create all these things that we buy. They create all the things that they think we need. Think about it. It's for those of you who play video games. I saw a video the other day how everybody was so upset because the conglomerate of creation of video games and systems were no longer going to make discs because you know what? Now everything's going to be streaming. Now everything you want to use our components, you have to stream or just play the old games that you have. Okay, let's look at that. How does that work? Not so good for you after you paid $699 for a game console and you were hoping you were getting more games throughout the year, and all of a sudden someone changed the game on you. Someone changed it, right? So there we are. So my friends, the game is always constantly changing. Constantly changing. It's always changing. The thing is, we don't change with the game. We don't change with the game. We don't change with the game. We have to evolve as much as everybody else evolves. Sometimes we don't evolve because we're stuck in old patterns and old behaviors. It's a pattern language. All of us, most of us, the majority of the humans on this planet, on this earth, who are not wealthy, who are not rich, who are kind of below middle class, not even middle class, below middle class. You speak a pattern language. You have a pattern language that you speak in the regions you live. You have a pattern language of behavior. You have a pattern language of shopping. You have a pattern language of paycheck to paycheck. Your pattern language tells you this. I only make so much. I only bring in so much. I can only spend so much. I can only buy so much. Now, most of you, the majority of you, don't want a business. So you got to get a job. You have to have a job. And those of you who are entrepreneurs and those of you guys who are self-employed, there's a big difference between self-employed and entrepreneurship. It's a difference. Self-employed, that can mean a lot of different things. Entrepreneurship, that can mean a whole lot of different things. Without getting too complicated, a person who's in business for themselves has a lot of liability to cover for themselves with employees, with themselves, whatever. And so here we go. We're working hard every day in creating industry, small industry, so we can create more industry. And then we're trying to create a pattern language for people. And then what happens? If the product's not good, it's not supported by its region, by the people in its area. Why? Because it could be just poor quality. Maybe there's another competitor. Believe it or not, people talk a good game. Oh, I'm going to go support the small business person. And then you know what? They don't. They don't go to support the small business person because, number one, their products are either $1 more or 50 cents more, or they don't have what they want, or the drive is too long. I'm just going to go to Home Depot because it's right there instead of going to the hardware store. That's why you don't see hardware stores around the corner like we used to. You don't see little mom and pop shops, little stores anymore because you know what? The big stores got bigger and they sold things cheaper, and and everything started to change, and it's changed. And all these things will change again. Now before you never saw you never saw mega stores close down. You never did. Now you see mega churches closing down. They're only closing down because they're making bigger mega church. Because they're bringing everybody in. It's a business, man. And they have some business. They have coffee shops in there. They have restaurants in there. They have merch for sale. They have all this stuff. If you can't tell me that the church is not a business, then you're just fooling yourself. This is pattern language. You have a church that plays rock and roll music. You have another church that plays this kind of music or does this kind of stuff. It's because they want you to spend your money in there. They don't want you to go out there and spend your money. They want everything centralized, like a shopping mall. And they want you to be right there. And you know what? And most of us will support that. Well, I'd rather support my church than, but you're just supporting a church. But is the church supporting a local industry outside of itself? outside of what it's created. Granted, it's Sunday or Saturday, wherever they have their events. These are examples. Like the mega shopping centers, like let's see, like Sam's Club, Costco. They have little shops in there. They have little restaurants, right? Because they want you to eat there. They know you're going to be there for a long time because it's a warehouse. You're walking through a warehouse and you're buying warehouse prices. You can't just buy one Jif. You have to buy 3 Jifs or 2. You can't just buy one bottle. You have to buy 2 bottles. And sometimes it's affordable and sometimes you use it, but it's like, how many bottles of olive oil do I really need at one time? Yeah, it doesn't necessarily go bad if I don't use it, but it will go rancid if I don't, right? It's the same thing. The best deal, I'm just going to say the best deals that I find in like Costco's or whatever, Sam's Club, I'm not promoting them, I'm just talking as examples, is their toilet paper and paper towels. And you can't beat it. It's for $20. You buy, this big thing of toilet paper, but it's a pattern language. They're teaching you pattern language. They're teaching you economics. They're teaching you how to shop. They're saying, hey, listen, we'll give you $20 toilet paper, but we're going to sell you a $14 piece of bacon or eggs at $7. Since you're here, you might as well just buy it, right? And they know how to get you to buy certain things. They know how to make you come and get certain things that you like. And then they, sell you something higher and you're like, man, I'm already here. I'm just going to buy it. Yeah, I got 2, but I won't need 2 for next time. And that's how it works. That's how it works. And it's the same thing in anything. A restaurant, right? They're upselling you all the time. Would you like a drink? Sure. No. Okay. As soon as you say no, I'll just take water. They look at you like, oh man, this cheap ass. It's not. It's just because you're in a pattern language. You're out eating because you don't want to cook anything because you're tired, you're exhausted, not because you can't afford it, or maybe you can afford it, but you just don't want to cook. But the biggest thing is, that's where we're at. It's the pattern language of humanity. No matter where you go in the world, everybody has a pattern language. There's a hot sec everywhere, always changing. And the pattern language that we create, and when I say pattern language, I mean behavior, pattern language, all that. I'm rolling that all into one. They create, this thing for us to do and to use in the shop. And that's what happens in our lives. There's always flux, there's always change. But when you go to the store, you really don't have choices. You have the choices. There's a difference. You walk up to the shelf, you look at the shelf, and there's like 4 or 5 different brands, maybe more. And you know what? That's all you can buy. The true brand, one is $1.99 and the other one is $3.50. One's a name brand and the other one's an unknown brand. Now you look at the color, one is more red and one is a little lighter red. But the point is that, the point is all marketing. We're constantly being marketed to. Constantly. Especially on these apps that we're on here. We're constantly being berated with information. They hear everything that we talk about. They're constantly on us, what would you like to buy today? Dude, we talk about something after the show, they're going to be like, oh, do you want to buy a Sam's Club or Costco? You watch. That'll pop up on my feed later on today just because I said it. It'll pop up on my phone. But that's what happens. That's what happens with people. We work every day very hard, to keep what we can keep. But we can't because everything's so ridiculous high. Why is it high? Because they can do it. They can do it. And they know they can do it. They can price gouge you. And they have every excuse in the world. And they use every excuse in the world. They'll give you every excuse in the world. Oh, well, the container sunk at sea. Oh, there's a war going on in the Middle East. Oh, you know what? There was a pandemic. So we're going to charge you more for everything. And we're all going, what can we do? I mean, honestly, what can you really do? We can't go, well, I'm not going to pay. I'm not going to pay for that. I'm not buying peanut butter. So 5 of you don't buy peanut butter and there's still 20 people buying peanut butter. It's because they teach us. and they know that we don't want to buy it. I mean, the only thing that I saw where people reacted really adversely is when eggs were like almost $10 or $6 or something like that. When it went really high, but that's called conditioning. It's not that they went high; is they're conditioning you. They're conditioning you to prepare you that in the near future, eggs will cost you that much. And the reason why is because they're going to come out and they're going to say, "Oh, this weird bird flu killed all the chickens, and all of a sudden we have to raise the price because you know what? Or the feed was contaminated and most of our chickens in the regions died off." It's because they have a pattern language too. They have strategies. You don't think there's somebody in a think tank saying, "Okay, how do we get people to pay more without knowing they're not paying more?" I mean, think about it. There was a time where a gallon of milk used to be like what, $1.25, I believe. Now a gallon of milk is like $3, I think. It's almost as much as a gallon of gas. And so it's like, I don't know. Things change, friendships change, consuming changes. But we're conditioned, we're taught to be like that. We're taught to do things that we usually don't do. You know, that gas stations, you can drive down the street. One's 279, the other one is 329, and you're going, how's that possible? How do they get away with that? Well, how are they able to do that? There's a lot of answers to that, but it's just because in America it's called, it's just called, sometimes I want to just call it stupidity on our part because we have every means to boycott things and we won't do it. We won't do it because you know what? There are people who are willing to pay that because they need it. There are people who are willing to pay that because they don't care. There are people who are willing to pay for that because they think, well, that's what can I do? What can I change? There's another segment of people like, oh, I'm not going to buy that. That's ridiculous. That price is overcharged. But yet it happens, my friends. It happens. I know I'm going on a little bit about this, but I find that consumerism is one of the biggest things that it's hurting the United States, hurting our country. It's one of the things that makes us strong too, but it's hurting us too because you know what? As citizens, I mean, I don't know. I'm complaining. I'm saying, I'm talking. Are other people talking? Are other people standing up? Are other people like, I'm not going to buy this? But you just walk out this door of your house and you drive down to your grocery store. All those people just paid for all that. There's nobody on with a sign going, prices are too high. Yeah, we're all saying it. We're all going, oh, yeah, prices are too high. Yeah, well, what are you going to do about it? They can't do anything about it. That's the illusion. That's why they don't answer your questions when they get asked that. Because you know what? Most of these guys, their campaigns, they get donations from these big corporations, and the big corporation says, hey, you know what? We gave you some money. Oh, Iggy Garcia, he gave me $10. I gave you $1 million, Who do you want, Iggy Garcia's input or you want our input? Because if we give you our input, we'll give you more money. Iggy Garcia might give you 15 next month. Representation no longer exists the way it used to. We think it does. The illusion is that we think that representation, we're being represented. And we're not. We're not being represented. Absolutely not being represented. Nobody's got our back. When pharmaceutical companies can charge you an arm and a leg for medicines, you think they got our back? They don't have our back. They got their backs. They don't care about you. They care that they hope that you buy. That's the only reason they care about you. That's the only reason they care about me. Because that's the way it is. And I mean, this is all over the world now. This isn't just here in the US. This is everywhere. Big industry right now is in control of everything. Big industry, when I say industry, I'm talking about, the big conglomerates who control the food chain supply of our world. That's everywhere. And it's scary. It's scary because we go, let's go to Aldi's and buy because it's cheaper. Sure, some things are cheaper, but they don't necessarily have everything you need, right? You go to Kroger's, I'm using the stores that are locally around me, Myers, you go to Mark's, you go to any of those stores, and they're all pretty comparable. I mean, you go in there and you're pretty much paying the same price for anything. The experience of going to the store now is not the same. You go in and you're like, "Ooh, I want get what I need," and I'm out. Because it's like an addiction. You have to go. If you don't go, and there's nowhere else to go because we don't know how to farm. We don't know how to grow things in our yard. There are a group of people who probably are on here who know how to grow things and survive if something went crazy. Then 80%, maybe that's too high. Maybe that's 90%, or maybe 98%. Don't know how to do anything. And they rely on somebody else to feed them, to nurse them. I have greenbacks. Greenbacks buy food. Listen, the hurricane happened, right? And I saw a good article how they said that all the technology was down. All the technology was down, and people who had cash pretty much were able to buy things that were available, because I'm assuming there wasn't a whole lot available. But they weren't able to do certain things with, because the system was down. And that's what I'm telling you. We always talk about gold and silver, and no one really talks about that stuff, because right now there has to be an exchange, money exchange of sorts. Because if the world goes into a chaotic spin, and there's no technology, there's no access to internet, there's no access to telecommunications, nothing like that, then what happens? Not many people think about this stuff because it's, we think it's science fiction. We think, oh no, that won't happen. There's backup this, backup that. I'm sure there are backup stuff. I'm sure there's systems that are in place that will help. But I tell you, learn something. Don't be caught in that hot second and not knowing how to do something. Learn a new trade. Learn how to create. Learn how to, because you know what? If the world did come to a place where it was in a mess, you have to offer the world something. You got to be able to say, I got this to offer. And if the world wants it, they'll take it. If they don't want it, they won't. What would the world need? I don't know. I really don't know at that time. In that moment, I don't know. But I just know that right now, in this topic that we're talking about, it's just like, are we prepared? Are we ready for the big changes? Right now, they're talking about, there's a second moon in our orbit right now. It came in and it's locked in there for a couple months. And as soon as it gets like a trajectory, moves around, it'll spin out of our orbit and get launched back out. But does that affect us? Does that little moon affect us? Does it affect the moon? Does it affect the earth? Who knows? I don't know. I don't have answers. Some people say yes. Some people feel like it does and it would. No say, I don't have enough details. I don't have enough information for that. But I do know what does affect us. Those who control things, control our jobs, control our roads, control our infrastructure, control our water supplies, all the things that are vital and important to us. If you don't have that stuff, then what? If you don't have clean water, then what? What happens? Are you able to survive? Some of you will. I'm sure there's a great amount of people here on TikTok and on Facebook and all the social media this will plug into that are able to survive for a long period of time without. But there are other people, and I know these people, that are not going to be able to survive. Not going to be able to survive a cataclysm of any sort. The grid goes down. My God, the grid went. Power was out not too long ago here in Columbus, Ohio, and my neighbors were freaking the hell out. When's it coming back on, Iggy? When's it coming back on? I don't know. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. I don't know what it would be that caused this event. But that's where we're at. We talk about taxing the rich, not taxing the poor, overtaxing the middle class. The middle class has shrunk, according to what I've read according to what I've been told. It's not like it used to be. They don't have the same pool as they used to, but they're still there. But we're getting to the point where it's like you're either rich or you're poor, and that's it. I mean, poor doesn't mean you have nothing. Poor just means that you don't make enough to necessarily cover. We have a housing crisis here in America now. Supposedly, we don't have enough homes for people. Rent is exorbitant now. Shit, I have people live in my house, haven't paid me rent, and I have to evict them. You know, they had a great opportunity, had a great situation, but the problem with them is that they took advantage of the situation, and they pretty much did themselves in on that. That wasn't my doing. When you don't pay somebody for service rendered, there's consequences with that, and then that's what people don't understand. That's I want to be a good person. I want to be a good Samaritan. I want to be this and that, but also I got to take care of myself too. Someone's knocking on my door saying, "Hey, Iggy, what can I do for you?" That's never happened unless I'm sick or not well. Any other time, no one's going, "Hey, Iggy." No, it's not happening. If that's happened for you, then congratulations. Good job for you. But I can tell you right now, that's never occurred in my life like that. But can it? Sure, it could. Things could shift and change. Now, I'm not poo-hooing America. I'm not poo-hooing this world because, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about how we're manipulated. This is still one of the best places to live that I'm aware of. I come from Peru, and the standard of living is different than the standard of living here. Here you can be a poor person and have services and things that help you survive. There are some places that they don't have that. They don't have that. But here, at least in the United States, you're able to get assistance. You're able to get assistance, and you don't even have to be a citizen. You just have to be human. Now, is that a good thing? Yeah, sure. But regardless, when you come to the United States, this is a land of opportunity still. I still believe that. I saw my parents do it. I saw other people do it. I saw other people, immigrants, do it. And I still see it happening. But what I do see also that people are lazy and don't want to work and they want a free handout. That's true too. It doesn't matter where you come from. If you're an immigrant or if you're a born citizen here in this country, it doesn't matter. There are always going to be freeloaders in the pot. That's just how it goes. There are going to be people who are doers and shakers, and there are people who are just, we got to drag them along. Hey, that's life. That's reality. That's truth. Some of you have friends like that, and some of you have family members like that you got to drag along, because you know what? If you don't drag them along, God knows where they'll end up. But the point is, we're dragging them along, so they'll never learn to get better because we're dragging them along. If you just let them, sit in their poop for a while, I'm sure after a while they'll clean themselves up. But we don't do that because you know what? That's wrong. That we can't. We have to help people. No. The opportunity to succeed in this country is available to everybody. Anybody who wants to put themselves forward and do it. And yeah, you'll have to sacrifice some things. You'll have to sacrifice time. You'll have to sacrifice parties. You have to sacrifice events. You have to do things to get through, because that's what happens when you do that. When you want to pull yourself out of the ground and you want to pull yourself up, you got to do things that you normally wouldn't do. We've created societies. We created these infrastructures of societal of creation that people are desperate and are totally in need and totally can't do without it. We talk about how we're one of the richest countries in the world and we help people. Yeah, but we also enslave people with the same system that we create. With the same system that we create, we teach people how to enslave themselves. We never teach anybody how to get out of that enslavement and how to get out of that and move into a better version of themselves. Because that's not where it's at. In this country, it's not about how to make someone better. It's how we take care of them, or how can we do better for them, That we teach that. We teach our kids, different groups, different societies teach their kids, hey, if you work hard, you can get whatever you want. There's other groups like, no, you don't need to work hard. You get There's all kinds of philosophies and ideologies and beliefs. And I don't want to get into too many of them right now because there's too many of them. There are certain demographics, certain groups that stick together, and there's certain groups that don't. And it's very evident, and and you can see which ones stick together and which ones don't. Does that mean you're going to be successful? No, not necessarily, but you have a fighting chance. I'm a Latin American man. I'm from South America. I can't say the only things that have been handed to me were from my parents, but they were also because they worked hard. Did I make them succeed? Did they succeed? Not all of them, no. But you know what? I never wanted a job. I didn't want to have a job. I wanted to be my own person, my own success story. I wanted to be able to do what I thought was best for me. And that's what I've done for years. And some of the businesses that I've created have failed miserably because they just don't work. And what do? You close them. It doesn't mean I was a bad businessman. No, it's timing, location, motivation, inspiration, all the things that you know that maybe in that moment I lacked. But the point is, you don't just stop. It's like you throw enough mud on the wall, and eventually some of it's going to stick. It's the same way.
I'm not sure I understand.
You just gotta keep moving forward. There's so many of us, it's easy to blame somebody else for your downfall, for your demise. It's easy. It's easy because it's easy. Oh, I failed because my mom. I failed because the system failed me. I failed because, the corruption. I failed because of this. Okay, my mom and dad are dead. I can't blame them if I don't succeed from this point on. In that moment, I can blame them because, hey, while they're alive and they know how to manipulate the purse strings in my pocket, and they know how to manipulate the feelings and emotions that run through my heart. But now they're gone. Now they're dead. I can't use that excuse. I can't say, oh, you know what? No. Even if they were alive, I couldn't use that. You can't listen. If someone is living in your head and someone is in there and you are traumatized because of that, then you need to evict them from your mind. We let so many people live inside of our head for rent free because we don't know how to navigate out of that. How do you get out of that? Well, there's different processes, and you can go to counseling, you can go to hypnosis, you can go to a shaman, you name it, you can do however you want. You can do it yourself. But the reason the majority of us are not successful is because we don't have it. We don't have it. We don't have the ability to be successful because we are talk to ourselves in a negative and rambunctious way that it doesn't serve you. I'm too old. I'm not young enough. Oh, I'm not talented enough. Oh, I don't have money. Or I don't know how to do that. Or we have more excuses than there is probably stars in the sky. It's commitment. It's commitment and dedication that we're not willing to put in for a lot of people. They're not willing to sacrifice the Netflix. They're not willing to turn off, the radio when they should be doing their projects. Oh, but I need a break. Sure. Allocate break time. Sundays will be my break day. That's it. You ever wonder why you only have 2-day weekend? It's because you have a job. It's because people have jobs. Rich people don't have 2-day weekends. Every day could be their weekend if they want it. Every day. Or Saturday could be your weekend. Friday could be your weekend. Tuesday could be your weekend. No, because we have to survive. If we don't survive, if we don't have a job, if we don't work, we don't eat. That's because the system has been created that way. Democracy at its finest, right? But that's all over the world. It doesn't matter where you go. How you eat, what you eat, it is determined by how much you bring in. Will you bring in enough? I don't know. Are any of these guys running for office our saviors? Hell no. Not one of them. See, last night, those two looked more presidential than the other two. In moments, of course. But regardless, do you think they have the answer for you? No, they don't have the answer. Because the answer is you. It's not about voting for that person. It's about happens before the voting, before all that processes. All in your city, local, state, and county. It's all those people you should be worried, should be voting for. Those are the ones that you definitely should be really thinking about who's running, who's there. Those are the ones who make the determination, especially for what happens in your life. But we won't do it. We won't do it because we're party. Some of us are party liners, and that's all the way we vote. Some of us are just lazy and don't want to vote, and some of us don't vote because that's our constitutional right not to vote. Also, yeah, you don't have to vote, but someone's going to vote, right? Just understand, if you don't vote, doesn't mean that you failed the system or the system failed you. No, but if you do vote, the system still fails you. You still voted, and you're still failing. It's a statement. It's like doing whatever you're doing. So we're in an election year. Some people don't even know who their congressman is or who their senator is in their area, let alone know who they're running for president. But the thing is, just make sure that when you're in local government, you're voting for the people who will represent you the best. And you know what? And that can be tricky too, because you have to learn their background, know where they come from, who sponsors them, who's their biggest donors. Politics has changed a lot. I mean, for those of you who know, I ran for office years ago for the U.S. Congress, and it was learning. There was a lot of learning in that. I learned a lot about how the system worked in that time, right? But not much has really changed. It's pretty much the same. It's who you know, what you want, who they know they can't. They knew pretty well that I wasn't going to be their guy to manipulate and get things done the way they thought they were going to get done. And that's a true story, because that's not how I am. But they know who they can use, who they can manipulate, who they can fund, who, if they fund, will say, I'm on your side. I like to say good luck to everybody in the world, but you have to make your luck. You have to create your luck. You have to create what you want in your world. And you don't have to be a business person. You don't have to be a business person to do that. Just create in your world. Create what you need to create. Because if you don't create, someone's going to create it for you. And that's where it's at. Other people are creating for us the world that we think we should live in. Yeah, you live in your world. If you live in UA, you live in UA. Why? Because your parents live there. Someone created the world for you. So if for some reason you don't make it, you can't live there because you can't afford the taxes or whatever in the house, are you a failure? No. You just made different decisions, and the times have changed, and other decisions are made for you. But you ever drive around, you see all these fancy houses, and you wonder, how are these people affording all these houses? How's this all happening? Doesn't that's just in your area. I'm not talking about in different other places. I'm talking about all over the country. It's like this. You drive and you see all these beautiful homes, $1 million homes I'm talking about, and you're like, what do these people do for a living? What do they do? Are they all lawyers? Are they all doctors? Are they all hedge fund managers? Are they what? Business owners? I think about that sometimes. In the same way I drive and I go down and I go into areas that aren't so well off, and I wonder what these people think about and what their struggles are. I wonder what's going on in their mind. I wonder why they feel the way they do. I wonder if they feel like they could ever get out of this situation, or maybe they don't even know they're in the situation. There's times where I'm like, man, I hope the world's able to find itself the more I watch, the more I see more hate, more anger, more frustration. I just see it, and it's just like really saddens me. And I'm not just talking about one group or another, Democrat or Republican, communist, fascist, whatever. It's everywhere. It's all over. But you know what? It is what it is, right? It is what it is. But what is it that you are willing to change? What is it that you're willing to step up out of that feeling, those emotions about what is what it is? I just know I'm where I am because of the decisions made and not made. And I would have to guarantee and think that maybe that's where you're at too. You're where you're at because of the decisions you made or not made or chose not to make. And everything has consequences and everything has benefits and everything has, you know, things that play out in your favor and things that don't. But regardless, just know one thing, that we are able to move out of the space that we're in. Whoever tells you that you can't is full of shit. Okay, the first person tells you you don't have the same what's the word I want to use, the same way, the same ability to get out of a situation because you're a minority is full of it. I've seen tons of minority people. I'm a minority. Pull themselves out of holes and make success of themselves. And God forbid they listen to someone and say, "Oh, well, they don't have the same fighting chance." We all have the same fighting chance when our life comes to it. Are you going to fight through the programming? Is the question. Are you going to fight through the programming that you've initiated in your brain and land locked in there and listen to those people who tell you, "Oh no, you don't have a fighting chance because white America or European America won't let you." I don't know. I see some pretty successful Hispanics, blacks, Asians. I see a lot of very successful people. I know very successful minority groups. I see a lot of poor white people too, who like to complain about other white people who take it from them or other minority groups that take it from them. I see it on both sides. This is a country where no one should be hungry. This is a country where no one should be without. But a lot of it has to do where our heart is, our mind is, our spirit, our soul, you know, where we resonate, emotionally, physically, spiritually. When we buy into the rhetoric of who's good, who's bad, you know, and until we are able to move through that energy, we're going to be stuck for a while. Can we get out of it? Yeah, of course we can. Have you ever been stuck in the mud? You have a lot of options to get out of the mud, right? You can push, you can hit those wheels and you spin and spin and spin. Or you can tie a log around the wheel and help you get out. If you can't do that, you can call a tow truck, it'll pull you out. There's a zillion ways to move through things that hold you back. You just have to be creative. You just have to know what you need to do. But most of us are not willing to do that. Most of us are not willing to do the work, not willing to put in the work we need to put in. Why? I don't know. Because it's better sometimes for someone to say, I'm better off being a victim. They don't say I'm better off being a victim. They just feel victimized, so the feelings of victimization play out. And it's stronger than the drive to pull them out. And so that's why we get stuck. A lot of us. Not all of us, a lot of us. I feel like sometimes I've felt like I've been victimized. And you know what? And it starts to affect your spirit. You're like, I'm not victimized. I got victimized, but I'm not the victim. I'm not a victim because they don't live in my head. I can't give them that space. It's too easy to say, hey, you know what, I can't move forward because such and such said this and did this to me. You know, if I did that, I'd be a basket case. I don't know where I'd be if I worried about what everybody said to me or told me about how I'm supposed to be or how I'm supposed to feel. I don't know. It's just crazy. This is one of those topics that can just spin around and go in different directions. But regardless, I appreciate everybody allowing me a moment in time to share with you and be with you. And so you guys take care of yourselves. It's good to be here. Ho'oponopono, matakuyasin. And I'll see you at the Drum Circle, the Reiki Center on Saturday in Columbus, Ohio. Hopefully you can make it. And with that, I want to say have a good night. Thank you for tuning in.